All right, we're live. Another Thursday has come upon us, and it's time for another edition of Live Mike here on the Modeling with Mike channel. Another 90 minutes of modeling mayhem. And as usual, let's start with last week's poll result. The results of last week's poll question. The question was, as far as your kits go, would you rather have cheap and flawed or expensive and flawless? And this was really a lot closer than I thought. Cheap and flawed got 59%, and expensive and flawless got 41%. I thought it'd be a lot farther apart on the percentage either way, but oh, it was pretty close. That was surprising. So let's get to this week's topic, shall we? Resin PE or OOB, what's worth it on a budget? Some modelers swear by resin, others love photo etch, and some say just build it out of the box. But if you're on a budget, what actually makes sense? And today we're figuring out what upgrades are actually worth the money. So let's go through each option. Out of the box, it's the cheapest option. It builds your skills, and there's less frustration. Resin is high in detail, used for replacement parts such as cockpits, engines, and wheels. Photo etch is have thin metal details and often used for cockpit and exterior details. What resin does well? Resin does well on cockpits, wheels, engines, and seats. Downsides are price, fit issues, cutting and sanding. The budget verdict, it's sometimes worth it and depends on the kit. Let's look at photo etch. What PE does well. Does seat belts, grills, small details, and thin scale parts. Its downsides are it's hard to bend sometimes, especially without bending tools. Moosey, get back. It's easy to lose. How many of us have lost it in the carpet monster? And it can slow down builds. The budget verdict is sometimes unnecessary, and it can add frustration. So let's look at out of box builds, otherwise known as OOB. It brings faster builds because you're not adding extra parts. It focuses on your modeling skill. There's less stress, and many modern kits already have great detail. Now, when is aftermarket worth it? Aftermarket's worth it is when you have a cheap kit with weak detail. When you have bad kit wheels, for example, missing seat belts, and especially older kits. And some examples where this works is resin cockpit, resin wheels, PE seat belts, or just stick to OOB. So Moosey wants to get down. You sort of fidgeting. Get my notes back in order here after my spiel. All right. Yeah. Okay. So that was my spiel. Got my notes back in order. And let's go to the chat. Looks like everybody's been yakking while I've been talking. That's fine. Bernard Dye says, "Hi, Mike. Hi, Bernie." Then he says there are two entries for this session on the YouTube page. When I saw you in here, I figured it was the right one. And Jan says, two. Oh, you guys have been on here long enough to know that there's two entries on there. I told you last week why there was. Chet says, "Hey, y'all." Hey, Chet. Chet says, "Mike Slate." No, I'm not. I was on at 3:30. Bernard says, "Hi, Chet." Michael Lambertino. Hey, Michael. Chet says, "Bernard, live long and prosper." Chet says, "Mike and Moosey. Hey, live long and prosper, Chet." Chet says, "Michael." Jan says, "Hey." Chet says, "All the above depending on what you want to achieve." Okay, well, that question was actually the part of my opening line. It wasn't meant to be answered, but hey, thanks for answering anyway. Chet said, "What's a cockpit?" Yeah, okay, you're already ready to go, aren't you, Chet? MK says, "Hey everyone, how y'all doing this week?" Doing great, Justin. How are you? Chet says, "MK, watched a couple of your videos this morning." MK, I saw your latest What I Buy Wednesday. MK says, "Hiya, Chet. Stephen Kessel, model on, buddy." Chet says, "Stephen K." Oh, this is cool. Stephen says, "Hello, Chester." Jan says, "Slow down builds is not an argument. It's a hobby and a time sink away." Okay. Bubba, sup? Sup? Chet said, "Looney Bubba." Chet says, "OOB in car models is called box stock." Okay. Jan says, "On aftermarket upgrades for me, World War One, World War Two, plane builder, I feel seat belts are a must and masks, of course." MK says, "Thank you, Mike. I was blown away by that soft grip hobby knife." Yeah, that looks good. That looks nice. How much was that? Like 650 or something like that? That's not a bad buy. For the rest of you, MK and I were talking about his latest What I Buy on Wednesday video, and he went to Walmart for stuff. You guys should watch it. Bernard says, "I start with OOB and selectively add aftermarket if budget permits and the improvement offered by the add-on is worth it. I got the Phalanx Canon 3D printed upgrades, much better than the kits." Well, there you go. That's a good example of where aftermarket is worth it, and it actually comes in handy. MK says 6 and change. Yeah, Walmart find comes with 5 or 6 different blades. Yeah, I saw that. And those are that's very handy too. John Christmas. He said the problem with the question is that some OOB models are now coming with resin and PE. Well, like I told Chet, that really wasn't a question. It was part of my opening line, but you know, let's just get rid of the confusion, and I'll go right straight to my first question. Resin, PE, or OOB? What do you use most? I basically just go OOB unless there's something missing in the kit. Oh, and we have our first pop-up ad. Luckily, it's one I can get rid of in 5 seconds, and we're back. Chet says, John, live long and prosper. Bubba says, typically, easy for you to say. Typically, I go for full stock, but now I got a bunch of resin figures, so now I'm planning on adding them to my builds. There you go. John says, hi, Chester. John says, got to go all in. Does that mean you go resin and PE? Jan says PE mainly because Edward Profi Pack comes with it. So OOB. Chet says all the above but box stock, not OOB. Same thing. Same thing, Chet. Bernard says mostly OOB, but the collecting bug hits me if I see there's a lot of extras available for the kit. Sprue Brothers will show you all the extras on the same page. Very dangerous. Yeah. There's two things that really bug me, okay, on, especially on PE. Number one is when they're put in places that are going to be hidden. You guys all know how I feel about that. It's stupid. And then PE seatbelts. I mean, they look good, but when was the last time you rode in a vehicle that had metal seatbelts? You tell me. Number one, it's dangerous. I want to see how anybody looks after being in an accident wearing metal seatbelts. John says, Edward doing hybrid kits with resin and PE included in the kit. Okay. Yeah, I knew that. I didn't know they were using resin, though. Wow. Chet says, only use Sprue Brothers for my egg planes. You and your egg planes. Easter's coming up, Chet. Better get a couple of kits. Yeah, I basically go OOB unless there's something missing. When it comes to seat belts or something, I'd much rather make them myself out of either fabric or tape or something. Bernard says, I have seen some videos where the modelers use thin strips of masking tape for seat belts. Seems to work pretty well. Yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about. MK says, I just got my first resin item a few weeks ago, a set of wheels and tires from Iceman, never used PE. Yeah, wait till you do. You'll never use it again. I guarantee you. Chet says, on cars, the seat belts are ribbon material. PE are used for buckles and connecting devices. Not all the time, Chet. I've seen total, well, let me rephrase that. On planes, seat belts on planes are PE seat belts on planes are the whole seat belt. And that's just not realistic. Yeah, you get in an accident wearing metal seat belts on a plane, shit. You're already gonna be dead, but you're gonna be dismembered too. MK says LMAO. Bubba says PE is simultaneously great yet abysmal to work with. That's a good way of putting it. Especially with when you're dealing with the real small stuff. Uh, I mentioned in I'll give you a little preview of tomorrow's video. I mentioned in it there's a guy on the I think it's Moss Miller's Facebook group. He's from Singapore. He's called SQ Model Maker. Just does some astronomically phenomenal work with very small PE. He usually bends PE for like 1/700th scale ships, and they are just phenomenal. Bernard says, I did buy resin wheels for a car once when I needed a different style for the build, but that was a style issue. The kit's wheels were fine. Okay, well, that's a choice. That's personal choice. That's fine. Jan says, PE seat belts for 72nd scale and 48 scale are okay. HGW makes fabric seat belts for planes. Oh, cool. Yeah, that'd be more realistic. Chet says Munchkin Modeling just posted the eggplane group build starts April 1st. Ends the end of April. Just got 3 from Sprue Brothers. $9 each. Not bad. So April 1st. That's Wednesday. The only reason I know that is I got a freaking doctor's appointment in Fort Wayne that day. And it's cost me $150 to go there. MK says, I could see PE being handy for interior work and name badges on cars. Yes. Chet says, on cars, the PE seat belts with ribbon look way better than the decals. I bet. Ribbon's another good thing, because ribbon, you could just lay it over the seat. Oh man, that would look nice. Bubba says MK is right, especially when it's all hidden in a compartment such as an engine. Yeah. Chet says I got an MRI on the 2nd. Oh yeah, that's for your foot. Yeah, I those MRIs freak me a little bit. Bubba says Mike had a great time with that in his plane build. Actually, Bubba, the engine stuff was easy. It was the damn cockpit that was a piece of crap. Yeah, that cockpit just drove me nuts. Absolutely freaking out of my mind. But I got through it, man. That's the main thing. I got through it. MK says Resin 3D would be insane for personalizing a kit to your liking, and the detail they can put on that now is awesome. Absolutely true. And they're now coming out with non-resin 3D. So Bubba says the big question is, will John apply aftermarket stuff for Dora? Something tells me that's going to be strictly OOB. Chet says, MRI is not bad. The CAT scan on my head after I fell this past Friday sucked. Stop breathing. Okay, breathe again. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The only thing about MRIs that drive me nuts is I'm slightly, not real bad, but just slightly claustrophobic. That enclosed thing, I have to close my eyes when I go in there, and then I'm fine. I usually use the opportunity on an MRI to take a quick nap. Exactly. Okay. MRI is good nap time. Yeah, but good luck on that next week, Chet. Hope it works out. Bubba says, I can see it now. The entire metal railing for her is all aftermarket PE. Yeah. Yeah, well, I don't know. That would be one expensive ass PE set for that big son of a bitch. Chet says only thing about an MRI, they tease you with music and then the noise of the machine drowns it out anyway. Isn't that true? Isn't that true? I think the profession of medicine was just invented just to freaking torture us. It was invented just to torture us, man. All right, time for another question for y'all. Let me know here in chat, what's the most expensive aftermarket part you've ever bought? MK says beats how they used to do things before modern medicine. Yeah, no shit. So, what's the most expensive aftermarket part you've ever bought? Most expensive, I think, was I bought I bought a set of tracks for my T80 tank. That was about $30. But rubber band tanks, ta- those rubber band tracks in the kit were so bad I couldn't use them. Okay, John says couldn't sleep during my MRI as was on heart and HD to hold breath. Wow. Bubba says my most expensive figures were about 15 Canadian dollars or 10 US. Wow. You got lucky on that one. Jan says PE set for a bow fighter cost about $22 or 18 euros. MK says my centerline auto drags on Dunlop GTS was $22, including shipping. Okay. Chet says either 3D resin chassis, 3D resin engine, or custom decals. Bubba says they're all good quality too. All I got to do is keep them looking good. Okay, cool. Bernard says most expensive part is the gold medal models photo etch set for the Tamiya 1350 at New Jersey. I think it was $25 when it first debuted. It has since grown to $60. I got it for $30 on sale. Wow. Yeah. Bernard says, I didn't buy the Pontos kit. That thing was $200, more expensive than the ship kit. Yeah. That's what I've been saying a lot of my videos, man. Those aftermarket kits, some of them are more expensive than the kit itself. John says most expensive was a set for a helicopter that cost me 50 pounds. Damn. Yeah, watch the video tomorrow. I definitely learned some stuff preparing for that. Definitely learned some stuff. Let's see here. Hold on, guys. I'm just seeing. Okay, cool. Okay, MK says, speaking of your videos, I love the last one about kids getting into the hobby. Thank you very much. Chet says, John, you had to lose 50 pounds to get it. John, you had to lose 50 pounds to get it? Damn. Bubba says the most expensive one was about 45 Canadian dollars. That's roughly what, 35 US? Jan says aftermarket can get expensive. Friend of mine got a 35 scale Sky Crane by ICM. He bought over 250 worth of aftermarket. Damn. Adrian, hi, Mike and gang. Hope you're all. Hi, Mike and gang. Hope you are all well. There, I said it correctly. Hi, Adrian. I'm fine. I'm great today. Hope things are all well across the pond, as we all say. Bubba says, sup, Adrian? Says, sup, Adrian? As you can see, Mike can't speak English well anymore. I never have been. What's this anymore shit? MK says, hi, Adrian. Crash. Oh, I gotta move my leg. My knee's starting to hurt. Okay, so Adrian says, hi, Bubba. He must have borrowed some teeth from the local dog pound. Adrian says, hi, MK. In case you're wondering, Adrian, otherwise known as Joe Smartass, the topic for today is resin PE or OOB. What's worth it on a budget? And the question out there is, What's the most expensive aftermarket part you've ever bought? Chet says 3D engines are $18 to $30 each. The drag chassis in 3D on average is $60. Custom made decals are at least $20. Aftermarket decal wheels start around $10. Yeah. And that adds up to what, 90, 110, 120 bucks thereabouts, 100 to 120. Adrian says straight OOB, no aftermarket, no less PE the better. Amen. Chet says, Adrian, what do you expect from a Colts and Bears fan? Yeah, okay. Yes, screw you, Chet. Patriots suck and they cheat. Stephen Kessel says, I bought a pair of 125th curb feelers for $15. That ain't bad for an aftermarket set. Adrian says, hi, young Chester. Chet says, decal sheets, not wheels. Okay. Bubba says, holy Moses, it's 4 p.m. for me already. Yep, it's 4 p.m. for me already, too. Actually, Bubba, in the big scheme of things, you're not really that far from me. Aren't you in Windsor? Didn't I hear you say you're in Windsor? MK Model Works, I'm just an hour behind. LOL. Bubba says, Adrian, if you calling Chester young, I must be his burns. Oh my God. Adrian says it's 8 p.m. for me. Chet says no argument from me. Can't stand the Patriots. I'm a Giants fan. Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm a Jersey transplant. Okay. I always was wondering why you like the Giants and you were living in Massachusetts. That explains it. Bubba says, and yep, I am a bit outside Windsor. Well, you're not that far from me. I'm in Warsaw, Indiana. That's about 40 miles west of Fort Wayne. I mean, Windsor's right across the river from Detroit, which is only like a 2.5, 3 hour drive from here. Jan says 2100 or 9 p.m. for the 24th clock challenge or 24-hour clock challenge. Yeah. Chet says, I'm 59, too old to be young and too young to be old. I'm right there with you, bud. Although I'm getting old fast. I'll be 63 in May. And that's old. I'm older than dirt. Not too old to be on YouTube, though. MK says, oh, come on, guys. You're only as old as you feel. I'm just a mere 42. Well, if I'm as old as I feel, then I'm 95. So, Chet says, born in 67, moved to Massachusetts in 2000. Adrian says, I'm 69 and y'all I'm 69 and all cylinders still firing. However, no fuel injection, just old fashioned carbs for me. Yep. Well, what's fuel injection? What is that shit? Bubba says, we all know I'm still just a newborn baby, at least compared to you ancient species. I like the way you put it before, Bubba, you being a sperm cell. Oh, Lord. Adrian says, your time will come, Bubba. Yes, sir. Every dog has its day. Chet says, I'm 59. I'm 59. My mind says I'm 21. My humor says 13, but my body says ancient. I'm about the same way. 63. My mind says 21. Oh, my humor says about 30. My body says 149. Oh, let me hit y'all with another question. This should be a good one. Which one intimidates you the most, resin or PE? Let me rephrase that one. Which do you like better, resin or PE? I'm going with resin. Those resin parts John sent me were great. Got to be careful around it, but every dog will have its day is a great song by Southern rock band Preacher Stone. Never heard of them. Bubba says, oh, come on, Mike. Don't lie. We all know what you actually like. Yeah, kiss my ass. Adrian says, you know, when you are getting old, when you walk into a room and forget why you are there, and your next thought is, I need to pee. Exactly. Michael Lambertino says, resin. Yep, I'm with you all the way. Bernard says, for me, I like resin a bit better. The main issue is very delicate resin parts break easily, but they typically don't fight me as hard as PE does. Yeah, that's the whole thing in a nutshell. I mean, I'll deal with the risk issues on that health wise. All you got to do is wear a mask and glove up. But Chet says like 3D resin better, but PE serves its purpose. As 3D resin can't make some of the PE parts. True. Jan says 3D printed resin is super for small upgrades. The old cast resin depends on quality. PE is just experience and patience. Okay. MK says I'd say resin. PE looks complicated for certain applications and painting, however. That's half the fun. All say together, Mike Hart PE. You want to go and time out, don't you, Chet? Adrian says neither. PE can do one neither. PE can do one closely followed by resin. I wrangle plastic and that's it. Bubba says I'm more of a resin guy, but PE can be enjoyable for me. I mean, I have I'm not a big fan of PE because a lot of those sets are overdone and way too small, and you can't see it anyway. I mean, eh. I just don't, I just, well, literally and figuratively, I don't see it. Oh, wow. We're already 40 minutes into this thing, guys. Damn, this is going fast. These things go fast anymore. Adrian says, I find PE pointless. You spend hour after frustrating hour getting the PE in place, then you paint over it. What's the point? Exactly. You either paint over it or you cover it over with something else. You know, if you could see it in it adds detail, like say vents for tanks and stuff like that are visible, very visible. I can see that. Bubba says, is that how life goes? You're 18, you blink, then you're 40? Pretty much. Then it's all downhill from there, my friend. It's all downhill from there. Adrian says a good copper paint can replace PE. Yes, it can. MK says, yes, Bubba, that's exactly how it goes. Bernard says, years go faster as you get older. Yes, they do. I remember when I was Bubba's age, that time before Thanksgiving, Christmas just drug. And now it just, like a day passes between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Chet says, I had a car script PE that was small, needed a magnifying glass with my head magnifier and prescription glasses just so it wasn't upside down. Damn. Yeah. Well, you know, I could see something like a car script because you're going to see it, and it does add something. And, it might take a little while, but it's still going to be, I'd still say it's going to be a lot easier and look better than if you did like a dry brushing thing. Stuff like that. I could see it. I could see using it, It's just these times when you're just putting it on just to cover it up. That's just it. It doesn't make sense. MK says, Bubba, be sure to listen to every old timer stories. They're gold. I wish I'd had it. I'd had it your age. Yeah. Yep. Amen. Chet says PE script is better than painting molded in script and emblems. Yes. Yes. Adrian says, Bubba, there are stages in life. When you get to 10, you want to be 18. When you get to 18, you want to be 25. Actually, I wanted to be 21. Reach 25 and you're looking forward to your 30s. Then the brakes wear out. Amen. Amen, Adrian. You are exactly right there. Had my first scope job on my knee when I was around 30. Then I had like 5 after that before I had my knee replacement. Bubba says one of my favorite things to do is to listen to old people yap. Why do you think I'm here? Bernard says, LOL, you picked a good place, Bubba. We should do that sometime on, say, like a holiday live stream. Instead of just doing something on models, we should just all gather together and tell stories about our 20s when we were in college and stuff, stupid things we used to do. Oh, I could tell you a few. Because we did some stupid ass shit when I was in college. I mean, stupid ass. Hey, all right. I just looked at the clock, looked at the timer on my screen. It's time for the next 3 videos segment where I tell you guys what's coming up. Next 3 videos on the channel. Tomorrow, the video will be the rise of aftermarket parts, helping or hurting the hobby. And it's not gonna be a one-way thing or another way thing. It's gonna be a very balanced video. And Tuesday, I was spent the afternoon getting ready to film this one for tomorrow's quick fixes to 5 common modeling mistakes. I was putting together an old model that I had just so I could show you these 5 quick fixes. Then next Friday, I have to get rid of a lot of paint off my mule model. So I'm going to show all of you how to strip paint for models. The last 2 videos are going to be aimed toward the beginners, obviously. So that's what's coming up on the channel. Okay, let's catch up. Adrian says, how many times have you been building a kit? You start off and then you look at the time that's nearly midnight. Many times than I care to admit. MK says, Bubba just asked him about the brontosaurus steak they all ate. Yeah, bite me, MK. Chet says, if you are doing a car model, make sure you grab a bottle of blinker fluid. You'll find it at the auto parts store next to the sailboat fuel. Chet says, also grab a bucket of blue steam. Adrian says, and some flat sparks for the grinder. Chet says, MK, I prefer the brontosaurus ribs. Yes, ribs are great. MK says, wait, Adrian, that's not how it's supposed to go. Oh, Lord. MK says, as far as looking down, at the time is gone. Bubba says, Chester, don't find the horn oil. Gotta keep it sounding fresh. Oh, hell. Oh, let me hit you with another question. Let me hit you with another question, just to rein it back in somewhat. What's the best resin upgrade you've ever bought? None, because I never bought any. Best one I ever used was that one John sent me for the Bulldog. Adrian says nothing because you don't use it. You're like me. Oh yeah, it just popped into my head. I wanted to tell you guys. MK says, "What was the question again, Mike? What's the best resin upgrade you ever bought?" And while you guys are getting your answers to that, I wanted to let you know this weekend, well, actually last weekend, I was. Adrian says, "Mike, quick question: What do you use for scale rigging wire for a ship?" I just usually use the thread that comes with the kit. Chet says, engine wheels, lots, they are all great. 125th figures are fun to paint. Okay, cool. Uh, I wanted to let you guys know last weekend I worked on my OBS uh, app. If any of you don't know what OBS is, it's a streaming platform or a streaming app that I can go to through instead of uh, it works with the YouTube app, but it's a lot better. I won't have to go through two rooms anymore. So I'm going to work on that. I just have a little few things to iron out and it'll be ready. So hopefully next week you'll only have to click on one room and I'll be on OBS and boom, you're in. Jan says seat for a KI 43, so incredibly thin it was see through. Damn. Bernard says the Phalanx Canon 3D printed upgrades I mentioned earlier are worlds more detailed than the ones that came with the kit. Masks are also always better than the ones I make myself. Yeah, masks do make things a lot easier. That's why I like on plane canopies. If the kit has a little bit of a raise on those lines, I love those because I could just sit there and take my tape and just sort of push it down around those lines and then cut it out around there and wow. But those are few and far between. Jan says model castern is the best rigging material. All right. Yeah, I just stick to thread You know, I'll probably be dead before I can make it to a competition for more than one day. Anyway, so yeah. Okay, let's see. Oh, Chet says you skipped over me. LOL. No, I didn't. I said yours. Yours was engine wheels lots. They are all great. 125th figures are fun to paint. I remember saying that. One of the few things I do remember from time to time, but I remembered that. Oh, hell. Oh, yeah. Another thing that popped in my head. If any of you are thinking of entering the USA 250 group build on the channel, uh, I got a post with all the rules, and starting with tomorrow's video, there's going to be a link to it in the video description, so you don't have to look it up and go down on. You just press the link, and boom, you're right at that post, and you can read all the rules. So just wanted to let you know that. Chet says between Bernard and Looney. Oh, well, Chet, that I skipped over you because it didn't go through. Don't know why, but that's like the second or third week in a row that somebody's chat did not go through. But type it again, chat, and hopefully it goes through this time. Adrian says, thanks, Looney, but that stuff is real expensive. A 25-meter roll of 0.13 rigging wire is nearly $30 over here. Wow. Yeah. That's too damn expensive for my blood. Way too expensive. $30 for 25 meters. Damn, 25. Well, that's over 75 yards. But that much for something they're not gonna use that often is a tad expensive. Chet says, Adrian, can you use black thread? Yeah. And we're almost at the 1 hour mark. Bubba says, sorry for being so quiet. I'm pulling up carpet and scraping off the glue. Fun. Jan says, yeah, that is a big negative of model castern. I also have used other rigging wire, but can't remember the brand. Adrian says the glue is meant to be used on the model, Bubba. Oh, God. Jan says 25 meters is about 27 yards, 75 feet. Okay. Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Adrian says these youngsters have no idea. LOL. What's up, buddy? Uh, oh, God. Bubba says, okay, Grandpa, need your diaper changed. Oh, God. Here we go. Bernard says, Adrian, Infinity Model and Ammo both make rigging line. Yes, they do. Adrian says, only if I can use one of yours. Ew. Moosey, come here. Come here. Oh, lay there. Bubba says, needs some more butterscotch pudding. Adrian says, cheers, Bernard. MK says, is Moose's name an iconic thing, like calling a big guy tiny? I've always wondered. Exactly. Moose is such a weenie. That's why he's named Moose. I got it off of, if you remember the old TV show Frasier, the dog name in that was Eddie, but the dog's name in real life was Moose, and he was a some kind of terrier, but a small dog. So when I moved into my apartment here, I told my best friend, I said, I'm going to buy me a small dog and I'm going to name it Moose. And that's exactly what I did. Adrian says, I prefer strawberry cheesecake. Chet says, hey, FYI, I saw on a video that Mr. Tool Cleaner works better and cheaper than Tamiya Extra Thin and can be on painted parts. 400 milliliters, about $12 on Hobby Link. But the 250 milliliter is $7, which actually comes out to be cheaper. Wow. That's a hell of a lot more than you get in Extra Thin. MK Model Works. That's it says. Well, that's what I thought, and I think he was a Jack. Yeah, he was a Jack Russell. Yeah, but that's where Moose's name came from. Bubba says, Adrian, do you call teenagers whippersnappers? Hey, whippersnapper. Adrian says, no, usually I call them a painting. Oh, hell. Question time. Question time. Have you ever bought resin that wasn't worth it? Who cares? I haven't. I haven't bought resin, so no. That's the question. Have you ever bought resin that wasn't worth it? Void question. Yeah, for you and I, it is. Jan says tool cleaner is not glue. It is way more aggressive. Okay. MK says, what's everyone's go-to website for custom decals and who has the best turnaround time? I have an autism awareness build in mind since April is Autism Awareness Month. Oh, oof. Oh, custom decals. Chet says, saw it on a Brit or Canadian model channel and it glues faster than Tamiya as well, but not having to scrape the paint was cool. A website for custom decals. Oh, damn. Might try the Cartograph website. Chet says, can't say that I have. I have a lot of 3D resin parts and figures. STS is a good one. Yeah, MK. He says, like STS decals. Chet says, Looney, technically Tamiya airbrush cleaner and extra thin are basically the same product. Yes, they are. Made from the same exact thing, just different mixtures, I believe. Adrian says, I have never scraped paint when I am using Tamiya, just apply it to both surfaces and slap them together. Bernard says, custom decals. I have seen sheets you can buy where you can print your own decals on your printer. Not sure how good they are. I haven't tried them. Chet says, STS, but a long wait at times. Terry does great work. MK, here's well, who asked that anyway? Well, that was MK, I believe. Hannah's is my go-to website or super hobby. Here, oh God, another pop-up ad. I'll be back in a minute or half a minute. Okay, get off my screen. Okay, let's see. Let's see here. Yeah, okay, MK. MK says, sorry, had a phone call. Here's the thing I do a lot, and when I have no idea to go to, just go to your phone, Press your search bar and enter custom decals. Boom. It'll give you a whole choice of places. Adrian says IPMS has a decal bank for members. You just ask them if they have the decal for a kit. Cool. Bubba says, never understood the point of pop up ads. Has anyone actually bought a product because they got a pop up ad for it? Probably not. Bernard says, as for the question, I also bought resin replacements for the Tomahawk launchers. They are good, but not as big an upgrade as the Phalanx ones were. Jan says that's the whole point. Recipes change a lot with different amounts of the same ingredients. Yeah, very true. Chet says, Bernard, be careful on what the decal paper is. Inkjet or laser, opacity on white. Printers can't print white. Clear decal paper disappears on dark surfaces. Very true. Damn. Okay, this next question. This is going to be easy to answer because who hasn't? Be honest, how many of you have launched PE into the carpet monster? Me. That's an easy one. That's so easy and stupid. Adrian says, yes, always. MK says, I've seen some new no spray decal paper that you don't have to varnish after printing. Bernard says, yes, Carpet Monster, take it all, not just PE. Oh, yeah. Carpet Monster's a bitch. Bubba says, but I dig around and find everything that drops out of spite. MK says, never had PE, but I could see how that would be a pain. Bubba says it has to die of starvation sometime soon. Oh, no, no. The carpet monster will never die. Eventually, he'll get his meal. Chet says yes, especially using the part launchers, i.e., tweezers. Yes, the dreaded part launcher. Ah. Chet says, under my desk is hard floor. Parts can travel 6 or more feet from where it drops. Wow. Yeah, I got sort of a Berber carpet, Berber is that short stuff. And I've had parts that fell on the carpet and I found them like 10 feet away because they hit and they bounce. God, do they bounce. Jan says, never lost a piece of PE. One piece of resin, but Carpet Monster has been fought several times. Same here. I've lost so many pieces to the carpet monster. I'm surprised Moosey doesn't have a model junkyard in his belly. Adrian says, under my bench is a hard floor and a portal to a new dimension. Somewhere in the fourth dimension, there's a mountain made from plastic parts that goes missing. Chet says, had a small part stuck in my beard, went to the bathroom, saw it in the mirror. Oh, man. Never had that happen. Can't say that I've had that happen before. Anytime. Wow. But then again, Chet, you have a rather long beard, though, so. Chet says, have found small parts months and several builds after losing it. That's the thing. I mean, you lose a part, and yeah, when you don't need it anymore, there you find it. MK says, I've done that before. Says Chet, not they. Bernard says, I heard one story about a guy that lost a part and a day later found it on the back of his cat. God. Oh, you shaved your beard. Oh. Not currently, I shaved it now. I feel naked. Bubba says, now that I'm removing the carpet where my bench is, I'm going to have a lot of unconventional space rockets and cave explorers because I have a concrete floor for my basement and it's cracked near my bench. Oh, yeah, yeah. The portal to the fourth dimension. MK says, I've lost the side panel to a 29 Woodies for 4 months. That shut down that build for a while. Chet says a friend's wife lost a car mirror. It was glued to her forehead. God. Oh, Lord. Oh, wow. That would be embarrassing as hell. So, did you ever find that side panel, MK? And if so, where'd you find it? Chet says, MK, isn't that a pretty big part? Well, yeah. Oh, Lord. MK says, yeah, it wasn't due to the carpet monster. It was in another kit box for some reason. Oh, wow. Damn. We have only 10 minutes left, folks. Bubba says I lost a full barrel for my 135th to Maya Panther. Panther A. I looked for it for 10 minutes, went outside to get a breather, bent over, and it was somehow in my short hair. Then it then fell through my deck boards. Oh no! Oh damn! Oh, that would suck. Bubba says, and into the severely overgrown underbrush. I then took another one half an hour looking for it, found it, and immediately glued it into place. You damn well should have. Chet says I lost the dashboard for a GTX build, searched everywhere, ordered a replace on Evil Bay. Disgruntledly paid the price. Found it a month ago in my paintbrush container. Oh shit! Okay, one last question before I end it. So, what do you think? Have kits gotten good enough that aftermarket isn't needed anymore? Not quite. Not quite. There's some things that aftermarket can do detail wise that uh, really injection molding can't. Bubba says depends on the brand. Yeah. Adrian says yes, they have in general, but you always have the odd manufacturer that can still turn out crap. Yes, you do. Especially in the limited run category. Oh, God, those suck. Bubba says if it's Mr. Crap, you might as well do a whole model from aftermarket parts. Yep. Yeah. Can't say that I disagree with you there. Chet says stripped chrome parts. I was stripped chrome parts on a Johann Cuda, cleaning in the sink. A wheel fell off the sprue and it freaking went down the drain. Oh, that sucks. Oh, guys, just another heads up. Jan says injection molding can't be as fine as aftermarket. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Chet says depend on what you want to achieve. Shelf queen, show model, etc. Yep. Okay, so we're coming up on 5 minutes left. So I'm gonna let you know now. From now on, I'm not gonna stop. I'm not gonna stop to put a bow on this till about 28, 29, an hour 28, hour 29 in, because I'm not gonna give the whole spiel that I do on my videos. Because you guys are mostly guys who watch my videos anyway. So it's a waste of time. So I'm just going to retell you the next three videos and catch you up on some stuff and then say bye. That's all I'm going to do from now on. Bubba says, Chet, did you open the P trap and by the grace of God find it in there, or did you scream slurs for 5 minutes? Kevin Smith. Well, you're on in time to watch 5 minutes of it. Kevin says, time to call a plumber, Chet. Says, hi, Mike. Hi, Kevin. And almost bye, Kevin. But Chet says, kit carbs look like a blob of plastic. Resin carbs look real and can draw out some great details. Yeah, it's like I was saying, especially 3D printing can do stuff that I don't think injection molding will ever be able to do. Kevin says, always late as usual. Well, you know. Bubba says, Chet says, Kev, live long and prosper. Bubba says, sup, Kev, live long and prosper. You missed some humor today. Chet says, Bubba, yes, and it was gone into the septic tank. Ooh. Adrian says, hey, Kev. Kevin says, Thursday, busy day till this time. Well, that's cool. Kevin says, Bubba. Kevin says, Adrian. All right, we're at the 127 and a half mark. Kevin says, Chet, break out the scuba gear. Chet says, luckily between Frank S. and the Atomic City, I was bailed out on wheels and the tires too. Keep box stock for a show. Okay. Bubba says, plug your nose, Chet, it helps. All right. I'm saying the 1 minute for chats. 1 minute. Last call for chats. Kevin says nose plugs. Chet says, how's Piggy Paws today? Oh, Lord. Adrian says, if it was thick enough in the tank, it would be floating on top. Well, then you go in and get it. Kevin says, having fun typing. 20 seconds. 20 seconds till I put a bow on this thing. Kevin says, don't think Chet would fit in the tank. Me neither. I wouldn't either. So, all right. We got 1 minute till the hour and a half mark. So I'm going to put a bow on this. Remember, the next three videos are tomorrow, the rise of aftermarket parts. Is it helping or hurting the hobby? And that's going to be a lot more balanced than you're thinking. Then Tuesdays and next Fridays are aimed toward the beginners. Tuesday's going to be quick fixes to 5 common modeling mistakes. And next Friday is going to be how to strip paint from models. So thanks everybody for showing up. Don't forget, from now on till the group build deadline, I'm going to have a link to that post with the rules on every video it bring out. So look for that if you're thinking about joining the group build. So let's catch up on the chat one last time. Kevin says later, y'all. Later, Kevin. Chat says technically it's not a septic tank, it's a grandfathered cesspool. Adrian says, thanks, Mike. It has been enjoyable. Maybe Bubba will reach puberty by the next one. we can only hope. MK says, have a great week, everyone. You too, MK. Kevin says, sounds like my life, Chet. Kevin says, maybe. Jan says, tomorrow on my to a model show in Germany. Cool. Bubba says, well, see everyone next Thursday, and hopefully Adrian hadn't either forgot about the stream. Bernard says, have a good weekend, all. And with that, I will say thanks to y'all. See you next week. Actually, see you tomorrow at 8:30. Later, all. Have a great weekend.